it definitely took me a few years to find my stride with my not wanting to just burst into tears every time I heard about a request, because it just really was hard. What helped with that was really realizing and meeting the families of our recipients and realizing the gratitude that they feel. And we've had family members come back to us 15, 20 years later saying, I was a child when you granted this dream to my parent who was dying, and I wasn't in a position. I was a student. I was starting my career. I wasn't in a position to do anything to help you, but I've never forgotten what you did, and now I'd like to become a donor.
There's a difference between a dream chaser and a dream catcher.
Thanks all for tuning in to Dreamcatchers, where we make things happen. Dreamcatchers was formally launched to unlock the hidden potential in successful, self-motivated individuals who desire to take their life's work to the next level but need support to evolve. We are a collective group of professionals with various backgrounds that use our talents to assist those individuals in realizing their wildest dreams by providing education, inspiration, and direction. This podcast is where we share the lessons we've learned along the way to catching our dreams and give you some context around the how and the why to each approach to put you further ahead on the journey to catching your dream. Are you ready?
Kisa Heyer, welcome to the Dreamcatchers podcast.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure is all mine. You, ma'am, made me cry earlier today. You told the most amazing story. I'm a softie. I'm a dad of 2 girls.
Oh, are you?
Girl.
Okay.
And so I want you to introduce what you guys do.
Okay.
By telling our listeners the story.
Okay. Starting with the story. Okay. My story is about a father and a daughter. The dad's name is Gary, 40 years old, and he had a 4-year-old daughter named Bailey. And Bailey loved to dance. Her dad would go with her to her ballet lessons. They had a video of her wearing her tutu, dancing everywhere they went. And Gary came to the organization that I work for with a request. And the request was that we put together a film of all of their mashup of all of their videos. And they asked for it to culminate at Disney in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle. And the reason that Gary asked for this is because he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He had glioblastoma, a brain cancer. And this request was so much more than a trip to Disney. The reason he wanted it was because he knew he wouldn't be there when Bailey got married. And he wanted her to be able to play that video in place of the father-daughter dance at her wedding 20, 30 years down the road, whenever that would be. It was so impactful. And I always, for years, thought if I could be there that day to just see that impact, it would be amazing. But I don't need to be there. I know what that impact is for that girl and for that family and their community and everyone who loves and supports them. And Gary actually spoke in the video, and his words still haunt me today. I remember them. He said, I want Bailey to know I was there, I cared for her, and I will be a part of that wedding day. And right after we filmed the video, he sadly lost his ability to speak shortly after. So those were literally amongst his last words. And then he died shortly after. And this was a few years ago. So we recently caught up with Bailey's mother. Bailey is now 11 years old. She's doing really well. And her mom reports that she watches that video on her phone every single day. And the work we do at Dream Foundation, I like that we have a little commonality with Dreamcatchers, Dream Foundation. I'd like to talk about just the meaning of dreaming a little later. The work we do at Dream Foundation is to provide an end-of-life dream to terminally ill adults and their families across the nation.
Whoa. Whoa. So many adults live in a world where they're taught not to dream anymore. They're taught to be practical and, Make-A-Wish foundations for children.
Right.
And adults are just kind of left to deal with whatever cards they've been dealt.
Right.
It's not anybody coming in to help them create that memory.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, we like to say that we are, and we like to say that, children have wishes. Adults have dreams that can be long spanning. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about dreams. I speak about Dream Foundation and the nature behind our applicants' requests. And, some of the things I think about are that dreams inspire us. They direct us towards new horizons. They also allowed old limitations to fall away, and they provide endless possibilities. And so at any point, a dream is amazing. But when you're living your final days, that dream is so powerful. It truly becomes everything in one's life.
So, Kisa, how do you get to a place where you're working at Dream Foundation? Because I've never heard of anything like this in my life. And part of the reason why you're here is because this is such an amazing story, amazing mission, and you're changing lives.
Absolutely. Well, the organization was founded long before I came. The organization has been around for 28 years and has fulfilled 33,000 dreams during that time. I've been there about 10 years ago. It was not my background at all. I started off my career in public accounting as an auditor. It was not for me. I did a few years, got my CPA, and actually moved to the UK, to London, England, and I worked in banking. I was on a trading floor. It was kind of a crazy time in England. It was a lot of fun. I got married there and moved actually back to the U.S. when my mother-in-law was terminal. My husband and I needed to come and kind of oversee the family business. We thought we'd come back to California, where it was based for 6 months, and we ended up pushing it to a year, and suddenly it's been much, much longer, and I've raised 2 children there. And I was fortunate during that time that I was able to be a stay-at-home mother, but I did a lot of volunteering with nonprofits. Many organizations, the town where I live has more registered nonprofits per capita of anywhere in the U.S. And so it was a pretty deep dive, and I was very involved in one organization in a totally different sector of nonprofit. There were term limits. It had almost become a full-time job. I was actually president of the board of that organization. And we had a term limits, and so I rolled off and realized my kids were kind of the age in middle school. It was like, okay, time to go back to work. And at that time, I was involved. You mentioned you have 2 daughters. I have 1 daughter and 1 son. But I was involved in a mother-daughter organization called National Charity League. There's a local chapter where I live. It's a 6-year program for mothers and daughters. They start it in middle school, and they do philanthropic work all the way through, culminating with the end of their high school career. So early on, my daughter said, one of the organizations where we can do our community service is this place called Dream Foundation. It sounds really cool. Why don't we go? So we signed up. They have a local program where they deliver flowers to anyone, regardless of medical condition, in our community. So we went one Saturday down to the farmer's market, assembled bouquets together with a big group of people. We happen to live in an area that's a very big flower growing region. And so the flowers are all donated by the flower growers, which is really incredible. And then volunteers come together, put together these amazing bouquets of flowers that ultimately would have been destined for the dumpster, but they get salvaged, and the organization delivers them through the help of volunteers to people in the community, elderly, anyone in a hospital, in a cancer center, your neighbor. If your neighbor lost their cat, you could call up and put your neighbor on our list, and we'd deliver them a bouquet. So my daughter and I started doing that, and I slowly got drawn into the organization, not just for the flower program, but when I went to take a tour, and I actually learned about the dream granting program taking place across the country. I was so impressed by the scope of it. I was impressed by the corporate partners who are supporting the organization. We have many partners in the biopharma and healthcare space, and their employees actually serve as our volunteers across the country. We're a really small organization with a small budget, and so these amazing strategic partnerships enable us to have these volunteers that are basically our interaction, our hugs to all of our patients everywhere. And so I thought that was amazing. And I also really was impressed with the in-kind partnerships of corporate partners. We have airlines who donate to us every year so that we can fill all the travel dream requests. We have hotel partners, adjustable bed partners, car sharing partners, and it was just, it was really amazing the way it was all set up on really a shoestring, but yet to be so impactful to people. It was really resonated with me.
Relationships make the world go round.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When people see the mission, they can get pretty excited and make some pretty miraculous.
I mean, you wouldn't believe it that the most important relationships that have come are when I have a problem and I say to someone, okay, I've got this request. Here's what it is, here's who it is, and here's what they want to do. And you put it out there, and it's amazing. We actually had, at one time, I had 3 requests that came across my desk all in the same week. And this was when I first started. And it was to meet the Pope, the President, and Oprah. No joke, all in 1 week. And I thought, how are we ever going to do this? You know, the celebrity requests are the hardest because just to get to that person. So by the end of the week, I was able to get meet and greets with 2 out of the 3.
Whoa.
And the first one happened, I was at one of our airline partners had a summit, and I was sitting with their head of VP of communications, and I just happened to mention, oh my gosh, I just got a request to meet the Pope. And she looked at me and said, well, let me help you. I went to school with the head of the Vatican PR. Hold on, I'll connect you. I mean, sometimes you put something out in the universe and it just, flourishes. We were also able to get to the president. It was President Obama. We worked with Make-A-Wish, actually, the Mid-Atlantic states who handle all the presidential requests. That was amazing. And sadly, I was not able to get to Oprah Winfrey, but I will not give up trying because I'm sure there'll be another request coming one of these days to meet with her.
Wow. Wow. It's so... You said you want to talk about dreaming a little bit and what that is.
Well, I think, we've fulfilled 33,000 end-of-life dreams. And we have so much anecdotal evidence about how lives are transformed. You know, the story of Gary and Bailey and how Bailey's doing amazing and what that will be like for generations. But many people want data behind it. And so a few years ago, we conducted a survey with the American Psychological Association to really underscore what the impact is of having a dream and having a dream granted. And so we conducted a survey, and the results were really astonishing. We did some basic wellness indexes where if a patient is working with a social worker, they would ask them questions on well-being before giving them the suggestion that they could apply for a dream. Then when they told them that they could apply for the dream and after the dream was granted. And the results were just really astronomical. I think 8 out of 10 times there was a dramatic market improvement on the patient's well-being. And so just that thought of hoping and inspiration does so much for people. We had a recipient, this is going back probably 6 years ago, who wanted to go to Washington, D.C. He was a veteran. He wanted to go to Washington, D.C. to show his wife and son what compelled him to serve. And he was pretty ill when he came to us, and we reacted very quickly and organized the trip. And it just so happened that he was from Arizona. We ran a TV show on it. And I got a phone call the next Monday from Senator McCain's office. This was when Senator McCain was still alive. And it was one of his staffers saying, the senator, saw your piece while he was at home over the weekend. He understands that there's an Arizona veteran that wants to go to Washington. What can we do to help? So within the matter of a few days, this trip was so much more beyond what we could have ever possibly provided. We had this amazing access, and his staffers were incredible at helping us organize this incredible trip. And the week of the trip was shortly upon us, and the wife called to alert us that her husband's condition was rapidly declining, and she wasn't sure he was going to be able to go on to the trip. And she called back a few hours to say, sadly, he had died. And so I had to call all of our contacts in Washington and tell them the sad news. And they were really upset. But what was so incredible that I was able to share, and this is what his wife had said to us, is, I just want you to know his last words to me were that his faith in humanity was restored by the virtue of the people granting this dream. He didn't even get to go on it, but he knew that it was going to happen. And so I think that power of persuasion and that power of inspiration and hope are so powerful. And for someone to say their last words, that their faith in humanity is restored, I think that's pretty powerful.
I think it's powerful as well. Mm-hmm. And him sharing that, I think, created a ripple effect for other folks, because I'm sure that story's probably been told hundreds of times by the people who have heard it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just a single case. It's the one I got to meet the family, and so it's very fresh in my mind. And in fact, the son was in college at the time, and he came and spoke at some of our fundraisers. He would go and speak with me at speaking engagements and really talk about what that meant to his father, even though his father didn't actually get to go to Washington. So I remained really close with the family, but I think it's a reoccurring theme when something like this happens. It's the power of, wow, someone would do, I put this out in the world and they said, yes, someone would do this for me. I mean, the gratitude is absolutely immense.
So is it really a dream if you can do it by yourself?
Well, that's interesting. I would say in the case of our applicants at Dream Foundation, they're lacking the resources to do it by themselves. So they can't do it themselves. And the resources could be financial, but they could also be contact, especially in the celebrity limelight or sports figures, something like that. So yes, I think it is. I mean, I don't know about you. I have my own personal dreams. I hope to be able to do them, but they're still going to be a dream until I've done them. Yeah. Maybe an aspiration, but a little both.
Aspiration, dream, but I think if you can do it yourself, then it's not really that big. There's not a stretch. You probably just haven't decided to go do it, right? Because you have the capacity to get it done. But I guess the point I want to drive home is when you want to go to that next level, when you want to experience something major, sometimes we're hesitant to ask for help.
True.
Sometimes we decide that we don't want the thing because we've got to go to this place of humility to say, I don't have or I need. And because of that, we don't accomplish or achieve the things that we're supposed to.
I think that's a really good point, Jerome. Absolutely. And I think some people, what I hear is, I'm not worthy. How would they do this for me? I mean, it's there's a huge amount of humility. Absolutely. But we see, on the flip side, we also see incredible need. But also, I think, such dignity and feeling of, if I could do this, or if I could leave my family with this memory, I would have such closure. And I think that's pretty powerful.
A lot of people want to unlock their ultimate potential but lack the strategy, support, and stamina necessary to achieve their major goals. They often try to overcome these challenges by trying to do it on their own, causing frustration, fatigue, and eventually failure. We have developed a model for a center life, aka the red pill, to help them bolster their beliefs, gain clarity on their path to success, and provide accountability as they take action on their goals. When they take the red pill, they rapidly accelerate attainment of their goals and begin to experience a life of significance and impact. Want to find out more? Hop over to jeromemyers.co. Now, let's get back to the episode. So, do you find that a lot of people who come to your organization just want to meet like celebrities, or like what is there a common thread out of that 33,000?
Well, celebrities are actually a small part of the work that we do. They're the hardest in terms of trying to organize and facilitate. We have some pretty broad categories. And I would say what I've noticed is that, 1 in 3 of our applicants have children in the household. And so they very commonly come to us and request some sort of memory building experience, whether it's a theme park or a trip to the ocean or something big and bold to leave those children with a big memory. And then as the patients age, I see more bucket list items, things to provide inspiration, something that has been unfinished in their life. So that could be someone who's written poetry, a body of work of poems, and they'd like to see them published together, or an artist who'd like to have an art exhibit, or a musician who would like to have someone put their words to song, or a musical director to critique them. We've done all of those recently, and those are pretty amazing. There's also things we call daydreams, and that's just an experience. I'd like to go to the zoo one last time, or I'd like to go see a horse. I haven't seen a horse since I was a child, and I love horses. Celebrities make up a part of that as well. Sporting events, concerts, other types, heroes. And then a whole other side of what we do are comfort items. And those are basic needs, I consider them. Items that are designed to alleviate suffering or provide comfort. So that could be a wheelchair ramp. We had one woman who was housebound in her home for 3 years because she was in a wheelchair and couldn't get out of her house and was totally separated from her church across the street. So we came in with some donated lumber and a construction team that were willing to assemble a wheelchair ramp, and suddenly the woman is across the street back with her church and feeling part of her community again. So that wheelchair ramp, it's vastly important. One thing that we've been doing a lot of during the pandemic is technology requests. So people, tablets, iPads, so that they can connect with family members who weren't able to travel or see them. At least they can do things that you and I probably take for granted, like Zoom or FaceTime. A lot of technology requests, which have been great. We've also had some incredibly humble requests. We had one man that asked us for an Amazon gift card to be given to his social worker so that she could order some things for him. He lived in a facility where he wasn't comfortable receiving payment. He was worried it would be stolen. And when we asked him what he was going to buy with that Amazon gift card, he wanted bread and socks. Pretty humble, but for somebody with circulatory issues and is bedbound, socks are really important. And so to be able to get him warm, comfortable socks transformed things. Another example that really moved me was a 92-year-old man who had radiation on his throat. He had throat cancer. And his elderly wife, who was disabled, was buying big blocks of ice and manually chipping them with an ice pick to give him chips of ice so that he could suck on them to provide comfort for the sores that were in his throat from the radiation. And so for us, we came in with a countertop mounted ice chipper, and imagine how easy that is, and just transform things for them. So you and I think, how can an ice chipper be a dream? But for that couple in that moment and what they were going through and their situation, it truly was a dream for them. So dreams come in many forms.
Well, and I don't think it's for anybody to decide whether the dream is, Yeah, appropriate or not, it's what they want.
It's what they want. I mean, of course, we have budgetary restrictions and those sorts of things, but it's the need. What is it that would be most beneficial to you at this moment?
That's interesting. Yeah, we go from creating memories to reducing suffering.
Right.
Two different,
vastly different
experiences. So this may be a tough question, but I feel like I gotta ask it. What has granting these dreams taught you?
Oh, it's taught me so much. I mean, I think it definitely took me a few years to find my stride with my not wanting to just burst into tears every time I heard about a request, because it just really was hard. What helped with that was really realizing and meeting the families of our recipients and realizing the gratitude that they feel. And we've had family members come back to us 15, 20 years later saying, I was a child when you granted this dream to my parent who was dying, and I wasn't in a position. I was a student. I was starting my career. I wasn't in a position to do anything to help you, but I've never forgotten what you did, and now I'd like to become a donor, which is pretty incredible to see not only how long those memories and that impact lasts, but to see them turning around and paying it forward is pretty incredible. But it's taught me, I don't get to meet every recipient. We have too many, and they're across the country. We're a small organization. But when people apply to us, they write a letter to us as well, in addition to filling out a form. They write a letter as to why it's important. And I really think it gives a sense of who they are, what they stand for, and had we read Gary, whose dream I spoke about earlier, I want to go to Sleeping Beauty's castle, I would have filed that away with, okay, a Disney dream. Great, we do those all the time. But when we read about the father-daughter dance, that was like, we will move mountains to make that happen. It was pretty incredible. So for me, I always think about the impact and what it means to that family. And I think, it's also taught me a lot about mortality and what people value as they are facing the end of their days. Some pretty common themes. I'd say families is up there as much as they can. Or reconnecting with lost family members is also closure is very important and something we really feel that we're helping provide many people.
You said the word closure. Mm-hmm. Is that what this is for a lot of them?
Absolutely. We have situations where someone has a life expectancy of 8 weeks or less. We call that an emergency dream, and we really it goes to the top of the pile, and we work on it as quickly as we can to make it happen, because we know that they don't have much time left. And often cases, those will revolve around family reunions, moving someone to be able to go and have a final bedside goodbye. And that's really important for closure, for all aspects, for everyone involved, but not only for the person who's dying, but for those who are being left behind. So closure is very important. It's actually part of our mission statement. We offer dreams that provide inspiration, comfort, and closure.
For the people who are left behind, and I don't know if that's the right way to characterize it, but those are the best words I have right now. What do they need? Like, there's the experience, there's the memory, there's closure for the person who's going to pass on. But what about the survivors? What about the ones that are left behind? Do you have insight into that?
Well, we keep in touch as well as we can. Many families, they're going through so much, and sometimes it will take a while until we hear from them. And I've started recently in the last few years, when I'm asked to bring along a recipient, or bring along a patient, I have started asking, and some of our partners like us to do that, particularly those in healthcare. They want to know who they're serving, who their contributions are going to support, what I like to do instead is bring a surviving spouse. And I like to do it about 3 or 5 years after the time that their loved one has died. And what I ask them to talk about is what the dream meant to their spouse, what it meant to them at the time, and what does it mean to them now, 3, 4, 5 years later after their loved one has died. And time and time again, I hear it means more to me now, knowing that they had this dream fulfilled. It left us with these memories. It left the kids with this. It enabled this for our family. And it's one of my fondest and, happiest moments that we were able to do this. And so I think that happiness in a time of extreme sadness is something that really fills people for a long time.
Happiness in a time of extreme sadness. And so it's this moment, even though we know the situation is.
Absolutely.
But we can create this moment.
Mm-hmm. And everyone can rally behind it and get behind it and view it as a celebration.
With them still there.
Yeah.
Versus waiting until after.
Right. But knowing that whatever it is that this person wanted, more than anything, this is it, and they were able to fulfill that. I mean, what a feeling of accomplishment.
I think we all should be fulfilling whatever we want the most.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Right? I don't think we should have to be in a dire situation to actually make the effort to do the thing.
I mean, I would say absolutely yes, if you have the financial means to do that. Many of the families that apply to us have originated as a dual income family. And because of the disease and the diagnosis, suddenly they're down one salary. And then the second person becomes the caregiver. And the cost of treatments and healthcare and medical expenses can decimate families. And so they're so busy managing the business of the disease, there's nothing left to do these special things or extra things. And so that's where we come in, and that's our honor and privilege to be able to do that.
Kisa, if the listeners out there want to jump in and help you guys make some dreams a reality, how do they do that?
They can start online. Our website is dreamfoundation.org. And we have how to help, how to get involved, how to donate. We have people. You should follow us on social media for sure: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And when our recipients are open to it, we profile their stories. And so we share a lot of the stories. We have videos, and you can really get behind and understand the stories. But what else has been happening on social media is people are launching their own, birthday fundraisers on Facebook or other peer-to-peer platforms. But we have volunteers raising funds on our behalf all over the country at any given moment. Golf tournaments, garage sales, bake sales, lemonade stands. We had a corporation do a chili cook-off and a beard growing competition, all kinds of employee engagement. We have employees going to their employer and saying, what are you doing for your corporate social responsibility? And can we have an employee giving program? And we nominate Dream Foundation. There's a ton of ways. If you're a frequent flyer, we're always looking for airline miles. We have that on our website on how people can donate those. So there's a lot of ways that people can get involved. And if you just are interested in volunteering in your area, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Wow. Kisa, you're a dream catcher.
Well, thank you, Jerome. I think you are too.
Well, I just want to inspire people to go do the thing. But you, ma'am, you're changing lives in a way that's unforgettable in each interaction. And you do it not looking for praise. You do it without expectation. You and I don't know what happened along your journey to make you want to dedicate so much of your life to something like this, because something had to happen for it to move to that level. And whatever that is, I'm glad it happened, because there's this ripple effect that's happening as a result of your work. And so just want to acknowledge you for that, because I suspect in the chair that you sit in that you don't hear a whole lot of that. You probably hear more people complaining if you guys don't get it done than anything else. And that's not fair.
Actually, no. Our guidelines are pretty easy, and I would say in the majority of the cases, people are so easy. They're so just full of gratitude. It's really wonderful. And my dream is to be able to serve more people, and we can only do that. We don't receive any state or federal funding. We rely solely on private donations to continue to do our work, and so. The more people that want to get behind us and support us, that just enables us to serve more. And the need is there. You look at cases of diseases and the increase of them. We're focusing on a few diseases this year on really bringing awareness to them and helping to try to serve more people that have those conditions. It's the first time we've done this, but we are sort of taking a deep dive into Parkinson's, into lymphoma, and into a specific form of breast cancer called triple-negative breast cancer. And that doesn't mean that that's all that we're serving. We're not by any means, but those are areas that we're trying to serve more people on. But we have, a huge range of conditions. I would say that cancer make up about 60% of the applications that we receive, and then kind of some broad categories below that. But, the numbers of the people that we're serving, there are so many more people diagnosed across the country with a terminal diagnosis. But you're kind to say that.
I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Final question.
Okay.
What's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this episode?
Well, we spoke this morning, or when I did my presentation to the group, and, I tried to really bring it to home to think about what would you do for someone in your own family? You would move mountains to grant them their final request. And the requests that we receive aren't that difficult. And to be able to help someone with their final request, whether you know them or not, is one of the most rewarding and humbling experiences. And so anyone who is interested, I would love to talk to them about that.
Outstanding. Coming to you live from GoBundance, Miami. Kisa, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to spend some time with you today. Thank you for being so generous with your time.
Thank you so much, Jerome. What a pleasure speaking with you.
To the listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for joining the tribe today. We would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate, like, and share. Perhaps someone you know could benefit from what we've discussed. Until the next time, remember that your dreams should be real.